everyone, my name is Jenna, but you guys can call me Jen, and welcome back to my channel. Welcome to the start of a long-awaited vlog by me. I don't know if any of y'all were awaiting this, but I'm gonna be reading the entire Poppy War trilogy in this vlog. Yes, wish my sanity luck. Hopefully this goes okay. I have previously read The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang, and at the time it just didn't sit right with me, but it's been a couple years. I think I might be able to fall into it more, and perhaps I just need to actually continue with the trilogy. So the plan is to reread this bad boy, hopefully love it more than I did, and then dive into 2, and then 3. So I'm excited. I'm a little wary because I know this breaks people's lives, and it might be a mistake trying to read them all back to back to back, but we'll find out. Yeah, this is probably going to be a pretty spoilery vlog, but as for right now, it's like midnight, but I'm gonna go start the Poppy War and get going into it so I can officially kick this bad boy off. Hello friends. So I am now just finished part 1 of the Poppy War, and I gotta say, this go around, this read through, going so much better. It's going so much better. I ended up reading like 150 pages when I last talked to you that same night, and I haven't had a chance to read all week. So now that it's Friday, and it's the Friday of a long weekend, I'm going to consume as much of this and hopefully the next book as I can. I'm back into it. So I'm on page 219, I think, the start of chapter 10, right here yonder. And I'm trying to think back to what I originally thought about this book, because like as I was reading it, because I remember enjoying it somewhat, especially this first part, because I don't know, there's always something about a school setting, about someone learning new skills, about many years passing as you see them grow, that I found really enchanting. And I really thought that Jung was amazing, Rin's teacher, but I had trouble with really caring about anything. I think that's what it was. Now I'm rereading it and I'm so in, and I immediately I'm getting the aspect of like how dangerous Rin is from the start. Like this is gonna be pretty spoilery. The whole conversation that Rin has with Jung after she wakes up from her meditation, like this whole section I think I wish was longer, like her actually learning about lore and becoming a master, rather than having like her first year be so long. I understand why it is, because you have to show her like fundamentals, but I wish this part of the book was a little bit more like the whole meditation part of Rin's like knowledge, where she is trying to meditate and trying to get the hang of it. It just kind of breezes past the fact that she struggles so much with it at the beginning and she like can't sit still. If you guys know anything about meditation, if you ever tried to do meditation or anything, like you have to really start small, because you have to train your brain to make it to the point where you can be in that state of nothing for a long time. The way that Jung is like, okay, you have to meditate for an hour. I'm just sitting here, I'm like, there's no way. There's no way. Someone who's never meditated in her life has to meditate for an hour, and if she gets something wrong, if she like sneezes or moves, he like restarts the clock. I'm like, that's torture. That's not how you teach somebody to meditate. So I wish we had like kind of sunk into that a little bit more and got more out of it, because and like seeing how Rin made herself able to meditate, because for her first year with Jung learning lore, we just kind of breeze over it really quickly. And like I know not a whole lot of other stuff was happening, but like we breeze over it and she's not really like super into the meditation thing, but like years go by and then she starts to get it. But I wish I knew how she did, because she's such a dangerous, fire-filled person that I want to know how she managed to calm her mind enough for that, you know? Because we go from that and her like debating with Jung about everything, and then she ends up, and then like the actual meditation scene where she meditates for like a week or 2 weeks or however long she's gone is so quick, and I wish it wasn't that quick, because it breezes right through it. And I remember the first time reading this, getting to the end of it and going, okay. And the second time was better because I was actually paying more attention this time. But again, I wish there was a little bit more. I wish we got to sit in those like feelings of being in that meditation on each of the days, and like how Rin was slowly losing her mind a little bit, and then, you know, the hallucinations start and then she actually ascends. I wish we had sat in it more, because in my copy it like fits into like a page and a half maybe. She goes through like the 15 days starting where my line is essentially to like where my finger is. Like that's where the first 15 days, which isn't long enough in my opinion. I think there could have been a better sitting with this really super intense moment in Rin's like growth and her learning. And then we could have gotten to the end of it when she's talking to Zhang again, and she's starting to, and he's like, oh my god, you understand, you've been unlocked, you've ascended, whatever, this is amazing, you've been cured. And she's sitting there, she's like, no, I want to harness this power because that's who she is. And then like you get to that part and you're like, oh no, and like you can feel you're on the precipice of something, which is a great way to end a part of a book. I wish there had been more balance in this first part, because like the amount of time we spend in Rin's first year at Sinigard, you just, so detailed. You get her feelings, you get how entrenched she is in this wanting to prove herself and wanting to fit in, but yet she still doesn't. And then she just totally is just like, well, I'm going to prove myself no matter what. And then for the next however many years Rin is at Sinigard, I don't know exactly how many it is, you just breeze right through it and you get to the end of her being a master. Like, or not unnecessary, I keep calling it a master, I don't think she's actually a master, but like she unlocks her ability to ascend essentially. It's so rushed. I wish we had spent more time with her in this part, which was actually important. Like this whole thing about Zhang saying that she has to let go of the material world because she's so obsessed with her anger and she has to let go of her anger. Like, I wish we had dug into that a little bit more to like see exactly how it was plaguing her and how much she was like obsessed with sitting in this mortal realm. And, you know, again, how she got through the meditation part, because she seems like such a person that would not be able to meditate for longer than like 3 minutes. I don't remember how I feel about the rest of the book. I just remember that like when I first read this, overall, I was kind of just meh about it, underwhelmed. I was expecting brilliance, and it to me, it just kind of was fine, because, you know, people hype this book up so much. Anyways, I'm gonna get back to it. I'll let you know how I feel probably at the end of part 2. In the middle there, that's part 2, and then we have part 3 at the end. So maybe at the end of part 2, I'll update you guys and we'll see where things are. That's page 406. So not crazy amount of time to go, but yeah, so far, reread is going pretty good. Hello, friends. Oof, don't mind my appearance. Hi. It is officially the next day. I'm sitting at the beginning of part 3 of the Poppy War. And I gotta say, that last part, intense as hell. It went so much faster than I thought it was going to. Did I like it as much as part 1? Was it good? So this part follows Rin as she kind of becomes part of the, I want to say militia, but not really. Like she kind of is, and then she gets shipped off when everyone realizes what she can do. They ship her off to like be part of the Psych is called, or the Bazaar Children, I think, who are other shamans like herself, like can do weird things by channeling gods. And it's so brutal, and it's just like, now we're getting into the war crime era. But at this point, Rin is like just able to do what she can do, and she's just like completely going headfirst into danger zone, where she's just like, whoever this woman is, I don't know who she is, who's like trying to protect her in when she goes and she tries to connect with her gods, and Rin's just annoyed because she's like, I need to access this power and you're stopping me. I don't care that you keep telling me it's gonna hurt me. I want power. And this woman is like, but no, you're like, I couldn't save the boy, meaning Alton, but I want to be able to save you. And Ren's like, honestly, I don't care. We're at the front. Like, I'm literally fighting a war right now. I could die tomorrow. I want this power to, like, you know, give me a chance. It's brutal. So we're like at the point where she's now kind of mastered that, I think, pretty much. Like, thinking back to what happens in the rest of this book, and I keep trying to be like, am I conflating this with another book that I've read? Because I feel like I read Sky Hunter by Marie Lu during like the same year, and there's scenes in Sky Hunter that for some reason my brain is like, yeah, that's in the Poppy War. And I'm like, no, there's no like top secret militaristic place where they get taken to be studied. Like, that's not a thing in this book. that's in Sky Hunter. So I have to keep reminding myself that that's a thing. I know what happens in this next part of the book, but how the fuck does all of that happen in this few amount of pages? I am confusion. And I understand these are like Bible thin pages, but like, you mean we get all of Golden Ace in this little itty bitty spot? What I'm coming away from this reread on is that it's not necessarily paced weird. It's more of like, I wish there was just a touch more balance on some aspects. Although that last part 2, was definitely good and moved and did have, I think, good enough balance. I'm still stuck on part 1. But yeah, part 2 was interesting because it started with someone who wasn't Rin, which was interesting, just to like kind of show that he was brutally murdered by the Empress. That kind of led into Alton being the commander of the Psyche. So yeah, I don't know, that was interesting. But having read Babel and absolutely loving it, it was a masterpiece. Coming back to this first book, and this was her debut, you can feel how much, and you can really see how much difference there are between the two books. Not only because it's a completely different subject matter, but because this one isn't quite as well done as Babel is, in my opinion. So I'm intrigued to see how that works and how that goes between book 2 and book 3 after this, because I'm not saying that it's a bad book at all. Like, I'm really enjoying this reread. It's a good time. It's brutal, it's harrowing, it's keeping me hooked and all the stuff that you want in a book, but it's not up to par with the expertise that you see in Babel, which is insane because this is her first book. Babel was her fourth. She's gotten so much better at writing, and that's insane. In like 4 books, she did that. Anyways, I'm gonna keep reading, and I will let you know my final thoughts when I'm done reading The Poppy War. Hello friends, it is now a little later, and I finished The Poppy War. Damn, you know, you forget. Maybe it's like a purposeful forgetting, or maybe it's just because my memory is absolutely awful. Damn, you forget how brutal this book is. The descriptions, the war crimes, the war crimes, and just, God, man, Rin is an unlikable character. You know, it makes sense that R.F. Kuang has now gone on to write Yellowface, which I have not yet read, but I do want to. But like, that has the most unlikable character as our main character. So like, maybe it's just a thing that R.F. Kuang really likes to write, is people who we don't like and who we have a really hard time rooting for. The whole like last half of this book, I was just sitting there just like, oh my God, Rin. Oh my God, Rin. And she's saying some things, like she says at one point, like, how can things get possibly worse? And I'm like, honey, you just spoke a prophecy into the world. You're going to suffer. Like, also, I was right when I was saying earlier that I was like, I think it's in the Sky Hunter book. It is in the Sky Hunter book where the two main characters, or the main character and her love interest or whatever, go to and get like inspected in like a lab or something. Happens here too. So I wasn't wrong. As soon as I started reading it, I was like, oh my God, I was right. I was right. Alton and Rin get taken to a laboratory and tested on, I guess. But they don't really get tested on. They just kind of get asked questions and then given opium to like subdue them, which I guess is kind of a form of torture, because when you come down from the high, that's when you feel the most pain. Then they burn the hell out of it. But, or Alton does. Alton burns the hell out of it. But also, I'm saying this now as a prediction, Alton is not dead. Why? Because it was made very clear with the death of Tyr earlier in the book that all of the shamans feel that death. Even Rin, who doesn't really know what's going on, like when she's at Sinigard, when Tyr dies, like she feels it. And then at the end, when Chagan and Kara are like, we know what you did, we felt it. And then she's like, also Alton is dead, and they're like, nah bitch, we didn't feel that, we would have felt that. And she's like, well no, I saw him die. I'm like, you didn't actually see him die. When there's no definite dead body in a fantasy book, they're not actually dead. I think that Alton is still alive, and I think that the Phoenix is taking him over. The wind god guy, that I can't remember his name, starts with an F. Yeah, because like, it's made so clear that the other shamans can feel the deaths of their fellow shamans, and they didn't feel Alton's death. That's because he's not dead. He can't be. No. So, fun, as much as this can be fun. That was definitely a good reread. I liked it more this time, for sure. I'm a little nervous at how dark these are gonna get, because that's only book 1. And I like me a dark fantasy book. But the way that some of the darkness and war atrocities and stuff were treated in the Poppy War, especially with Ivanka's scene, made me want to put the book down and like look away. Like it's not the kind of war atrocity nature of like, well, I guess it's getting its point across, isn't it? I'm just trying to think here, because a lot of other dark fantasy books, when they give you all that war, give you all the atrocity, then you're seeing it on page. It can be so disturbing, but also given to you in a way that's still palatable because it's fantasy world. But this is just straight up war atrocity. It's given to you in a way that makes you feel sick to the stomach and makes you want to look away, because that's how it is in real life too. And it's like, don't look away, because this is important to see how awful it is. Like this is the reality of it. The only other book that I've read recently that deals with like war crimes and stuff is Seven Moons of Mali Almeida, which is a book about the Sri Lankan Civil War, but told in like a magical realism kind of a way. And in that book, all these war atrocities, all these war crimes, all these terrible things were given to us in a very blasé, numbed, irreverent tone. So it was a lot easier to read. These books don't do that. It makes it really difficult to stomach, which, damn, R.F. Kuang. I mean, get it. That's exactly it. All right. Book 2. Book 2s of trilogies don't usually go very well for me. I think the only ones that really have gone well for me are The Royal Assassin by Robin Hobb and Catching Fire by Suzanne Collins. Now that I'm thinking about it, I think those are the only ones that have really done very, very well in my opinion. Oh, and The Obelisk Gate by N.K. Jemisin, for sure. So there are a few. There are a few. Oh, yeah, Oleander Sword. The more I'm looking at my shelves, maybe there are a few, but most of the time, second books in series or second books in trilogies just don't do it for me. So we'll see how the second book goes. Hello, friends. Happy Sunday, I guess. It's literally the next day. I am on chapter 11, which is the very first chapter of part 2 of The Dragon Republic by R.F. Kuang. And I gotta say, this part 1 was much better than the part 1 of the Poppy War. It moved so much quicker. What a picture is painted of Rin's bullshit. Her bullshit and also her addiction. I'm not calling her addiction bullshit. That is some intense motherfucking shit that she's dealing with, right? Her bullshit is her obsession with danger and needing someone to tell her what to do. Part 1 is definitely good. I don't know, I think there's just my opinion of Rin kind of stands from the previous book. She's not a likable character. And in this book, because we start off with her in such a bad position, because she's so just taken out by her addiction to opium, she's useless. And she's not really, like, she's aware that she's useless to her team and that she's not a good leader because she likes being told what to do. She's a better soldier than commander. But she's also so whiny and such a child. And I don't know how old Rin is at the end of the Poppy War, beginning of the Dragon Republic. I'm not sure, but I guess you could still consider her to be a child. Like, this is the same kind of situation that you have with Fitz and the Royal Assassin. Like, just because they've gone through so much doesn't erase the fact that they are literally like teenagers, you know? I don't know how old Rin is in here. I could probably do the math, I guess. From the Poppy War to here, I would like put her at max maybe 20 years old, 19, 20. I could be very wrong, and I could be completely ignoring the fact that she's like 25 or 26 or something, I don't know. But she's acting so childish in this book. She's whiny. I understand she's going through it. I understand her addiction kind of puts her in this place that she's just absolutely broken and she desperately needs help. But she's so hard-headed and such a child that most of the time when she's having conversations with people, especially with Najah's father, the Dragon Lord, even though he's also coming at this from a wrong angle and coming at her addiction from a wrong angle, he's right in how Rin is acting. Like, he is 100% calling her out on her bullshit, and I'm happy that he does, because the way that she's acting, not because of the drugs, just because of what she believes and what she wants to do, she's on the war path to kill the Empress, right? And she has not thought a second in front of that at all. She hasn't even really thought about how she's gonna kill the Empress. She just wants to. She doesn't really have a plan. She's going at this entirely revenge-based. And our guy, I don't know how to pronounce his name, the Dragon Warlord, he basically tells her to sit her ass down and listen. And she needs that. She needed that. Obviously, the way that he goes about treating her addiction, not cool. Unfortunately, it's a pretty standard way of treating people with addiction, right? Like you blame them a lot. You blame the person who is addicted. And sure, Rin had some hand in it, but she was also a child who was faced with war atrocities, and this is the only thing that helped. So there's that. And it's just like the conversations that Rin has drive me bananas, and I almost don't want to see this from Rin's point of view anymore because I'm tired of being in her head. Like, not because of the addiction. I will keep saying that. It's entirely other from that aspect because people will cope how they will cope. It's just her fucking brain being attached to this death wish, and it's a poor me death wish in a way, you know? So I will say Rin is being absolutely insufferable, but like, I guess she's valid in it. She's gone through a lot. So, but yeah, other than Rin and her character and her beliefs and whatever, the plot of part 1 is really good. The Psyche are trying to murder the Empress. At the beginning, they're like under a pirate lady, which is amazing. We love the pirate lady. I'd love a book about her. She would be really cool. And then Rin, when she meets the Dragon Warlord, when she gets picked up by Naja after Moag, pirate lady Moag has betrayed her and her team, she's just like, but we made a deal. And the Dragon Warlord is like, you made a deal with the pirate queen. Do you understand that there is literally no rules in piracy? And Rin is just like whining, and I'm sitting here, I'm like, you trusted a pirate queen? You absolute dumbass. Like, you have said that you can't trust anybody and everybody lies. And yet you trusted a pirate queen to keep her word? Rin, come on. Anyways, I'm just gonna complain about Rin this whole time. But yeah, after that, we kind of get into an interesting cycle of Rin trying to, or the others forcing Rin to become sober again, going through that withdrawal. Like, I find it interesting that nobody was really willing to help her through that at all. None of the Psyche were, even though they understand the drugs cling to people because they all take psychedelics to be able to do what they do. Not a single one was like, hey Rin, let me watch over you while you go through this. And the only person that kind of got her in the end was Suni, because he stopped her from jumping overboard. None of them were helping her. And I don't know. Like, it's brutal as fuck, which is what I was getting into. Nobody is right. I don't know if I like anybody in this book except for Katai. And even Katai is on the fucking edge. Although he's the only one who actually fully just walked away from Rin and her bullshit when she committed that incredibly awful war crime at the end of the Poppy War. He was like, nah, I'm done with you, man. And I'm like, you know what, Katai? You're the only valid one in here. You're the only good one in here. So he's probably gonna die because that's the kind of world this place is. That's the update for part 1. I'm intrigued to see where this is going. I think that's like one of my main takeaways, is that because I knew the Poppy War's plot essentially was like a coming of age type of story, a history of this girl. We kind of knew what like the structure of that was going to be. I don't know where this one is going to go, because the main goal here is to kill the Empress, and they've tried now twice and have failed twice and have just learned, my air just turned on, I'm sorry, they've just learned that she's basically unkillable. So I don't know where it's going to go from here. I'm very intrigued. I'm going to keep going. I'll catch up with you when I'm done part 2. Hello friends. I just finished part 2. It went so much faster than I thought it was going to. Oh my god. I don't even know what to think anymore. This book is so brutal. It got to the point where some of the things that were happening just felt too much. Like, not too much to the narrative, just too much for me to handle, which is so, I've never come across a book like this. I'm totally fine with really dark books. I don't know if it was just because it was just so much over and over and over. And it's not even like we got a lot of war crimes in this one. It was just a lot of so much just blatant racism and really thinly veiled hatred of people who believe in monotheistic religions. It's the colonialism mindset. Reading that over and over, and I mean, we got that in Babel. We got it in Babel, and it was so ridiculous. Just the sheer racism that's just believed by these people, and it makes me so physically mad. And it was so much. It's so much to read. because the anger in me is unreal. Oh my god, it was so much. The people that Rin had to deal with in this part were just awful. The belief that they are better than everyone else and that it's scientifically proven that they are better than everyone else. I will say though, pushing all that aside, the pacing of this part did feel long in some parts because it was that like wartime stuck on this routine kind of a thing of like just going out and sacking towns and killing people and, you know, victories everywhere. But of course they have to come across the non-victory. There was something a little bit weird in this chapter, or in this part, where the Psyche were disbanded and they were all put on different ships, but then at one point they were all together again, and I'm like, how does that happen? And I guess all the ships were there, but it just, like, it didn't make sense as to why, like, Rin was talking about, like, Ramsa and Suni and Baji when I know they weren't on the same ship as her. And especially, like, Chagan, like, he just appears out of nowhere at one part when they see the wind god, and I'm just like, wait, that wasn't quite clear to my brain. And I also wish that we got more of the Psyche, because like some scenes where I knew they were there, they were not mentioned, they were not brought up, they were totally just pushed to the side, and Rin was focused entirely on Najah and Kitai and the people that she knew and like the people who have power. You know, it feels like in this part that the Psyche to the story, not necessarily to Rin, to the story, just weren't important enough. So they're just like little like caricatures just standing in the background, just like, we're still here, but we don't say anything. We have nothing to contribute to these scenes. And I'm just like, this is a little odd. This is not the Psyche that we kind of learned and knew from the Poppy War. So that is a weakness of this part. It was very heavily focused on like the atrocities of war, the weird religious stuff, and Rin, Kitai, and Najah, and all of the people, like Najah's older brother. Awful man, hate him so much, awful. Every person that we meet in this goddamn book is just straight up awful. I don't like, there's even wrote a note when we met Chagan and Kara's cousin, like the way that he's introduced is just awful. Like he's like, he can speak in minds, which is pretty cool. They all can, all of Chagan and Kara's people can, but he says something to her that's like lewd and bad and just, he's the worst. And I'm like, why can't there be one person we meet who is genuinely good? Like just decent, like a decent human being would be nice. And the only person we have is Kitai. And then in this part, we just learned that he's so full of rage, but it's different from Rin's, because Rin is this short fuse and Kitai's is a burning rage, and he's so valid for it. But Kitai is the only good one. I will say Kara was also, well, is she though? Because she committed a war crime with her brother and like flooded an entire region of people to leave them to starve. Is she a good... There's no good people in these books. The only good person is Kitai. And is he even good? Because he totally 100% murdered one of their classmates in cold blood. Anyways, besides that, I really enjoyed this last section of part 2. We changed focus away from the war back onto the issue with Rin and her fire, because at the end of part 1, or at the beginning of part 2, I guess, we figure out that Rin's fire has been blocked from her by Sudaji, who is also the Viperess. And so she has a seal in her mind, which is something that we kind of learned happened to Zhang, who is the gatekeeper, which is why he was like slightly immured as a person and goofy and aloof, and he didn't remember anything about his past because he had been sealed and all of his memories had just faded away, including his personality. And he just became an entirely different human being. That happened to Rin. She had a seal placed in her mind and she couldn't access her god's power through that. So I was hoping that we would focus on that more and like Rin trying to figure out how to stop it and unlock it, because we know from witnessing through Zhang's prowess of power back when Sinigard was being attacked that like someone said like, you've been sealed, you shouldn't be able to do this, and he says, I was sealed. So he broke the seal. Rin should know that it's possible to break the seal, right? But she doesn't remember it. She doesn't focus on it at all. She just kind of mourns in her own angry way and just throws herself into being a soldier and doesn't even care that her Psyche have been all disbanded and like thrown across ships and away from her, and she's been given no power, and she's just a lonely soldier because she likes being told what to do. She likes not being in it's such a weird combination because Rin really likes power. She wants that fire. She wants it so desperately, but she doesn't want to be a leader. She doesn't want to be a commander. She just wants the power. And I don't understand why she still wants this power. I know she wants to kill Sudaji and she feels like she can only be useful to people with her fire, but I don't understand why she doesn't want to lead. If she wants power, yet she doesn't want to lead, interesting dichotomy in that aspect of things. I don't know. It's an interesting choice. I like it though. Again, Rin, frustrating as hell, but like that's valid. The tie between her and Katai at the end though, the fact that it makes her more powerful is terrifying to me. Also, hate that we just lost Kara. Hate it so much. So awful. Killing a twin is never okay. I am just I'm sick. It wasn't even presented in a way that was like to make me cry because I cry at everything and I'm fine. There was no emotion there. But when you kill off a twin, I wasn't even prepared for any mental anguish or anything. It was just, it happened in such a quick way that it like doesn't even allow you to feel sad about it. It just makes you feel sick because it's this moment of tearing away. And it's this moment of gross atrocity that isn't even a part of the war that's going on right now. There are like 4 wars happening right now. It is crazy. I also still don't believe that Alton is dead. I still don't believe it because one, as my previous theory was suggested, we didn't feel it. It didn't have that shaman death spice that have previously been presented with other shaman deaths, you know? 2, with that whole seal thing, when Rin went into her mind palace, I guess, and tried to like attack the seal, her seal was presented as what Rin desperately wants, which is just to see everyone happy and to live in this world that does not exist. It was showing her Alton. She ended up killing Alton in this vision. But the vision Alton left a physical mark on her in the shape of his hand, like it burned into her skin. How is that possible? How is it possible? I don't know. Do you know? Through dreams? I don't know. But it just more evidence to the contrary of his death. I need to see this man walk back on page. I need to see it and I need to know how terrified Rin is of that moment because homegirl was abused by him. And yet she loved him. Everybody that Rin gets tangled with abuses her in some way. Everyone uses her like a tool. And she's got this constant refrain of like, I'm not a dog. I'm not a tool. And people are like, Rin, you are. Like, you're literally letting people use you. Like, they're not treating you like a human at all. They're treating you like a weapon and a tool that they can use. And she's just like, well, I'm not a dog. And one person literally called her out and was like, yeah, it was Chagan. Of course it was Chagan. I love Chagan. He's great. He's an awful human being, but he tries. He called her out and he's like, you are a dog. Like, look at the way you pander to all these people. You're just a people pleaser in some deep-seated way. Like, all you want is praise and to be called a good girl and to be told that you're doing a good job. And he's not wrong. Anyways, part 2 was great. So far, this book is sitting at a really strong 4-star, maybe even higher. Like, I can't really pick out things that are super wrong with it, like I was doing with the Poppy War, with the pacing and the balance of stuff. So this one's doing better than the Poppy War. Knowing what R.F. Kuang does in her writing now with Babel, and I'm looking forward to reading the Yellowface. I think I'm gonna pick Yellowface for my book club pick because I really want to talk about R.F. Kuang's work with people. She's a genius in some low-key way, you know, the way that she wraps reality so seamlessly into her books and pulls on the racism that we still experience today and the history of it, especially in these books. Unreal. I'm gonna get back to it and I'll update you when I'm done. Well, I'm done it. This was the first time that R.F. Kuang made me cry. Out of sheer, angry, just like, no, kind of sadness. So that's wonderful. But holy man, there was such a culmination in the belief, not the belief, what Rin wanted to do, and then realizing that she probably wasn't on the right side, but then also like, what even is the right side in war? You know, everyone's kind of on the bad side and doing bad things. There's no right side in war. At the end, of course, Rin, again, making the choice to put her trust in people that she shouldn't, and just like it was at the beginning when she was betrayed by the pirate queen. And Viceroy basically said, like, you shouldn't be putting your trust in people like that. And then at the end, he turns around and just stabs her in the back, Naja, literally. And I swear to God, this is just, it's terrifying. Like, the amount that these books have just kept stepping up the stakes, even though the situation is just war all around, it's insane. And now we have to deal with the Hesperians. They're just white people. And we all know from history how bad white people are, especially when it comes to war and colonialism. What a damn book. I am so fucking mad about the end of Suni and Baji and Ramza. I'm so mad. I am so mad. They didn't deserve to go the way they did. They didn't deserve, especially Ramza. Ramza was just a pyro, just obsessed with fire and explosives, and he was just a kid. God, he didn't have to die. And poor Rin having to watch them just die. I said it earlier that the psych really didn't get much of a role in this book, and they really didn't. They were pushed so far to the side. The only one left is Chagan, and Chagan's not even with them. Wow, what a book. One left. It's on my bookshelves right now. I wonder what that one's gonna do to me. Hello, friends. It's a whole bunch of days later. I took a break from reading because I got tired of Rin. But I'm back, and I finished the first part of The Burning God. And I'm tired of Rin. She's just so tiring to read from. Homegirl is very one note of a person, like, not as a character. No, she's very realistic as a character. Just, she's got one purpose, and it's just rage. And that's it. And I'm tired of reading a person who's an awful human being just be mad at the world and then get called a little girl and a child by everyone around her. I'm tired. I'm honestly tired of reading about Rin. The book so far is fine. I don't know how these books would have been any better, because if you had given us multi-POV, it would have been the case of like, okay, well, I like one of these people and I don't like anyone else. Like, if it had been Katai and Rin, I would have hated coming to Rin's POV all the time and then just like begged for Katai's POV to come back around, because he's honestly the only good person in these books, and even he's balancing on the edge. But I wish we had something like that, so it was a reprieve from living in Rin's stupid head. I get it. But come on, Rin. Goddamn. Yeah, part one was fine, which is so sad to say, because like, this is supposed to tear me apart, this book. But so far, nothing really surprising has happened. I've kind of predicted all the twists that were gonna happen. Everything from Katai being taken. There's a few things and a few statements in here that the narrator has made that I'm just like, that's not right. Like, a few things about Rin's past and how she's, like, for example, on page 78, it says she wasn't too stubborn to admit when she'd been wrong. I'm sorry, Rin never admits that she's wrong. She will fight to the death on her opinion because she knows that she's right. She knows that she's right. And like, before that, there was a comment of her saying something about like how she hated her fire, which she never really did. She craved it from the beginning. So there's a few continuity sentences in here that I just, I'm a little peeved by, because that's not right. These are statements that aren't right about Rin, and I don't know if someone just didn't edit these right or something, or I missed something, but it's kind of like, okay. But anyways, yeah, it's okay so far. This is just like a pillage of war book kind of a thing. At this point, it just kind of feels, this is gonna sound so bad, it feels like rinse and repeat on all the war atrocities, and I know that's what war is, but it lacks the punch that I think R.F. Kuang is going for. I don't know, there's a lot of like statements in here by Rin or by the narrator that just feel made for the sake of making them, to make things like dun 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 dramatic, and I'm like, nah, it's not needed. You know, maybe I'm just tired of reading these books. Maybe that's it. But I am enjoying myself, and I don't want to like put the book down. I have no idea where this is going. Obviously, there's going to be a rescue for Katai. Obviously, Rin is still in love with Naja. I still don't believe that Alton is dead, but like, there's no sign that he's going to ever come back. So that's kind of up in the air. I'm mad that the other psych are gone and dead, except for Chagon. So I hope he comes back because he actually gave this book like he was fun. I enjoyed him, even though he was like bastard. I want him to come back on page because he was an enjoyable character to read, just because he was a lot. He was a lot, and I really want to know his powers. I also want more of Daji. She seems really cool. And again, this is me just complaining about Rin, but like Rin needs to chill over some of the things that that people are telling her that she just kind of backs away from. Not in the way backs away, but just like butts her head up against these things, being like, no, we have to fight. And other people are like, Rin, chill. You're going to kill everybody if you keep doing this. And she's like, I'm right. And everyone's like, Rin, you've been out of school. You were in school for like 3 years. You've never commanded an army. You literally lost your mind last year. Like, you're not made for leadership. And she's like, I am. And honey. Yeah, I'm just irritated at her. That's the only thing. She continuously is surprised at when people around her do shitty things. And she's still like, these people are monsters. And I'm like, Rin, you were burning the eyes out of somebody just 2 pages ago. Like, she doesn't realize that her war crimes are the same as the other war crimes. She's just like, I'm right and no one else is. And I'm like, honey, oh my god. I think this is gonna be an interesting turn of events. I really hope that Rin actually learns something by the end of this book, because I feel like we've had Rin's character arc in the first book tipping into the second, and then we did have a little bit of a character arc in the second as well, but there still isn't that much of an attitude change in Rin. Like, she hasn't had her whole state of being ripped out from under her. Like, each of the changes that she's had have just piled on top of the others. There hasn't been a world-changing cataclysmic moment where she's decided to completely go against her old views, which I think would be very interesting of a choice to do. I don't know if that's going to happen, though, because Rin seems to be stuck in this cycle of wanting vengeance, wanting to be on the right side, and then ending up on the wrong side and betrayed by someone in power, and then taking it all out on the people around her and trying to find the easiest way out. It's just a cycle of her blaming people, and it's on a revenge rampage that's kind of tiring at this point. Like, I get the revenge in like the first couple bits there, like she was trying to, you know, fight for her city and fight for whatever, and the reason that Alton died, I still don't believe he's dead, that in the first book, that she's on this revenge war path against Sudaji, and that made sense in the Dragon Republic and the stakes were raised when they realized that she was essentially impossible to kill. So that's all well and great, but Rin has not backed away from this revenge death sentence, and I'm tired of it. I want her to learn something by the end of this book. Or you know what? I wouldn't be mad if R.F. Kuang pulled the Divergent trilogy ending, if I was being completely honest with you. I wouldn't be mad if she flat out murdered Rin. I wouldn't be. Because honestly, this girl has been in so many moments that she shouldn't have made it out of. Yet she did. Those are my thoughts. I'm gonna keep reading. I sound so angry and cynical right now, and I'm not angry. I'm just tired of reading about Rin, and I need there to be something more than just the monotony and tiresome cycle of war crimes that are going on. I'm now on chapter 22. I've finished part 2 of this book. We're on the home stretch. That second part, do I have any thoughts? It's all more of the same that I've said. I don't know why this book is just not doing it for me. do I have words? I don't know. Chang'an's back. Love that. I think Hanalei is Rin's mother. It's pretty thinly veiled that she's Rin's mother. I bet you Zhang is her father or some shit like that, because of course. I do like that Rin is actually doing a leadership thing. Is she though? Or is she just a symbol? I think that's what it is. I think she's just a symbol, but she's finally kind of getting the elements of like, how do I say this? It's just because Daji told her. It was basically like, if you want to take this realm, if you want to take the empire, you have to just take it. And it's about power and stuff. And again, with the power though, we've had repetitions of Rin being like, I want this power, and being jealous of Zhang and his power. Zhang's back. That man, I loved him so much in the Poppy War. I don't know if I like him anymore. He doesn't feel like the same character, which I guess is the point. But even when he's kind of like slipping back into his old Syndergaard ways, he's just not the same. And again, there's a few inconsistencies. Like, there is a blatant inconsistency where Rin has been calling the trifecta monsters the whole time, and then she says, like, right before they go and find the third one, she could be about to wake a monster. You know you're about to wake a monster. You've said it before. Don't say you could be. So I'm a little irritated at the inconsistencies in this book. And I find myself rolling my eyes at some stuff now, because it's just, we've had all of this before. Rin is doing the same shit that she's been doing since book one. It's just on a grander scale. She was like, there was a moment where she was talking with Venka, and there was the moment of like, I would never have sat with Venka because back in school, like, we would have been at each other's throats and blah, blah, blah. And like, who would have known that we are now here and the war has changed us in so many different ways? And I'm like, well, yeah, that's what happens when you grow up. Also, what happens when you grow up in the middle of a war, Rin. But like, have you changed at all from that girl walking through the halls of Syndergaard, other than the fact that you are now a war criminal? Like, you still run on one emotion, and that is anger and rage. And you still don't think, oh my god, Rin does not think ahead. She does not think of consequences. She just does stuff. And everyone's like, Rin, you're not thinking. I'm irate at this bitch. So this last part of the book better keep this higher, because currently it's barely sitting at a 3-star. Like, it's a good book, but we've seen all this before, and there's inconsistencies. This last part of this book better pick things up, because this is not how I wanted this trilogy to go. I'm tired of reading the same stuff over and over. And I get that it's probably the point of like, history repeats itself and it's a cyclical nature. Like, we've had the mention of that in this book before, like previously, about living in a cyclical nature of stuff, but you don't have to give us the same trudging and same just like discussions that Rin's having with people, and then her same attitude towards the outcome. Like, she's not learning at all. She's staying the same. She's just living through more experiences. She still thinks things are happening to her and that she's not the cause of most of this stuff. And then if she does believe that she's to blame, she pushes that guilt so far down that she locks it away and doesn't think about it at all. Rin hasn't learned. And like, the one moment when Kitai is trying to talk sense into her, when I think it was Daji mentioned like the idea of raising a psych army, essentially, or a shaman army, and Rin's like seriously considering it, and Kitai was like, you can't do that to people. You know what it's done to you. You are barely holding on as it is. And she's like, yeah, you're right. And then not even a full page later, it was this further down on the page, she's like, nah, Kitai's wrong, I'm right. And I swear to God, I want to reach into this book and throttle her. She's not learning anything. The last 2 books were so good, and this one's just making me so mad. If this last part doesn't rip my heart out like it's supposed to, I'm gonna riot. Even if it tries to, I don't think it'll make me feel anything at this point, because I'm irritated. Like, we're getting into the emotions of when I was reading Daughter of the Moon Goddess, and just reading out of spite. And I don't want to be doing that for these books, because I know R.F. Kuang is a genius and she's written some amazing books. And like, Babel is one of my favorite books from last year. Like, I know she can do this, but what the hell? I'm gonna get back to it. I think I have 3 hours left on the audiobook. I'm listening to it so fast because I'm reading it at the same time. I think I'm listening to it at 3.4 speed right now, which is not a good speed to be listening at, but it's the only thing that I can handle, because I'm in it, I'm reading as fast as it's going, and I low-key just want it to be done. So I feel like I'm making so many Poppy War people so mad at me right now. This shit better turn my opinion around. Let's go. And with that, I'm done. I was freaking right about the Divergent ending. You know what? Needed to happen. Rin, at the end, was seeing enemies everywhere around her, even to the man who was tied to her fucking soul. She needed to go. She was just so consumed with war. She's not a leader. She's just a soldier. And you know what? That's good. But this book was a mess. And I understand. I was reading some of the reviews for it that were kind of getting like middling or like 1-star reviews, and like the well-written ones, not just the angry ones. A few people were saying that it was so repetitive to read. Again, as I said, so repetitive. It's all the same shit that we learned in the previous 2 books, and it's a mess. Like, there is no direct through plotline in here of like direction. There's no direction in this book. And you could argue that all of that is war. It's a depiction of war. Sure. Yes. I'll give it that. But it's, as I said, there's continuity errors. There's statements said that are wrong. I hate Rin with all of my soul. She is awful to read from, and I had to read from her point of view for 3 fucking books. And I wanted to love this book. I wanted it to rip me apart. People were sobbing at the end of this book. Why? What are you sobbing for? Rin is a garbage human. She shouldn't have been allowed to do anything that she did. She needed to die at the end of this book. Poor Najah, honestly. But he's also a garbage human. There's literally no good people in these books. Oh, I'm so mad. I just like it almost got me. It almost turned me around at the end, because that's what happens at the end of books and at the end of series. It's the culmination of everything. It's those emotions that hit. But I'm not letting it, because I'm not gonna let it cloud my opinion of the rest of the book. Like, the last 5% don't get to fix the 95% that was not that good. The second book was so good. What the fuck? Is this gonna get less than a 3-star? It might. I'm gonna have to sleep on it and run it through Cop Isle in the morning. What a terrible end to this video. It was fine. It was just fine. As I keep fucking saying, it was kind of boring and awful to read from Rin's point of view. And I will say, I did like the devolvement of Rin's brain at the end, but I was just so done with her shit that I didn't care at that point. Also, another thing, there is no fucking way that you build up the trifecta to something so epic and you kill them in such an easy move. I'm sorry. There's no fucking way. They're not dead. Alton, also not dead. I still don't believe it. Where could he have gone? Book 2 made it so clear that he was not dead because nobody felt him die, and it was said multiple times. Even in this fucking book, Chagan said he felt somebody die. Like, he felt them die. And no one felt Alton die. So what does that mean? He's not actually dead. He's probably rampaging around this world like the fucking wind god was, just burning everything to shreds. Or he got himself buried under a mountain or something. Like, how do you kill 3 gods, essentially, by waking up the strongest one and then running away just so that the people with guns can handle your situation? I'm so mad at this book. What was this book? This was not good. I don't understand. This is the same kind of rage that I was feeling when I read the fucking Daughter of the Moon Goddess. Like, I don't know what I wanted from this book. I understand that it is a war fucking series. I am so livid. I'm so sorry. But like, I understand that this was a war series. There's so many better ways that you can write war books, and this was not it. Like, I keep wishy-washying back and forth between saying it was too easy for Rin, but it was also awful for Rin because it was. She lived through so many atrocities. I'm just, oh my god. Yeah, I need to sleep on this. Wrap my brain around my thoughts, but like, this has successfully made me like the other 2 books less. What a way to end a series. Throw it away. Doesn't deserve to be here anymore. Hello, my lovely friends, and welcome to the end of this trilogy reading vlog. I am feeling like I should make this a series on my channel, because previously I have just kind of done them during my regular reading vlogs, or done this thing where I read trilogies back to back, series I should say, because I do plan on doing it with a few duologies. Should I make this a series on my channel, you guys? If so, what should I name it? I'll ask you for your input. But yes, I've finished the Poppy War trilogy. We ended on a super sad, disappointing note, but overall, I'm glad I read this series. I'm glad that I gave the Poppy War a second chance and dove into 2 and 3. Book 2 was my favorite of the entire trilogy. It's such a rare occurrence because you guys know how I feel about second books in series and in duologies or in trilogies. Most of the time they feel like bridge books. This one felt amazing and it was fantastic. It was fantastic. But yes, overall, it was an okay experience. Last book was the weakest. It just really, really disappointed me. I don't know if I explained it well enough in this video as to why. I didn't really have issue with the content that was included. I had issue with the craft of the book, which is worse in my opinion. The craft of the book, which led to the content being a little lackluster, I think is what it was. Because as I said, it was just a repeat of what we've been getting from book 1 and book 2. On the war crime front, on Rin's character front, I didn't feel like she grew very much in this book. And I understand that might be the point that R.F. Kuang was going for. Like, Rin is fully, 100% a war criminal. She's not a good person. And her descent into paranoia and madness in this last book was proof of that. And you know what? That's okay. Good for her for living her best dreams, you know, and just burning eyeballs out of people's heads. You know, it's fine, I guess. I was hoping for more from this last book, for sure. You guys have heard me ranting enough about this book. But yes, I think book 2 really did whatever R.F. Kuang was trying to do really, really well. I think it worked really, really well with how Rin as a character grew from what she was in the Poppy War and then kind of almost wrapped in and around on herself, but we got to see her grow with her powers and also learn that without her powers, what is she, right? It was an interesting analysis on Rin's mind. It was the possibility and the potential of her being awful in this book, but also potential of being really great in this book as well. I don't know, this was really, really, really good. And I think if R.F. Kuang continued on that really good train, this would have been an absolute knockout ending, but it wasn't, as you guys know. In the end, I ended up giving the Poppy War 4 stars, which is a change from my original 3-star rating. I didn't realize it was only rated at 3 stars. Definitely enjoyed this read a lot more the second time around. I was in a better mood for it. I was prepared for what I was getting into. I had the same feelings when I was going into the Assassin's Apprentice with Robin Hobb's trilogy that I read. When I first read those 2 first books, they just disappointed me in different kind of ways. It was just a lackluster feeling, and I think both of them were because I didn't know what I was getting into, really. I didn't know the tone I was getting into, and I wasn't in the right headspace for that tone of a read, but I was this time around, so this one gets 4 stars. The second one, of course, gets 4.5 stars, the highest rated one of the trilogy, and then we ended off on the huge disappointment of 2.5 stars for The Burning God. Anyways, my friends, that was this entire trilogy read through of the Poppy War. If there's a specific trilogy or duology or series that you guys want me to read in full like this, please let me know down below because I would love to know which ones you want to get my thoughts on. But other than that, thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you in another video very, very soon. Stay kind and keep on reading.